Hello everybody. So today we are covering section 8.4 and 8.6, which is all about the logarithmic functions. So first off, let's start with the definition of a logarithmic function. So if x and b are positive real numbers such that b is not equal to 1, then y is equal to log base b of x is called the logarithmic function with base b. And so we have this property. So y equals log base b of x, and that is equivalent to b to the y equals x. So note in the expression y equals log base b of x, that is called the logarithm, b is called the base, and x is called the argument. So, and then just a remark. So when you just see like y log of x, like if you don't see a b, then that is the same as saying y is equal to log base 10 of x. So what does that mean? So if we see y equals log of x, that is equivalent to saying 10 to the y is equal to x. So, and then let's see, yeah. A couple more things. Y equals log base b of x. That is called the logarithmic form of the equation. And then b to the y equals x is called the exponential form of the equation. So, just a remark. So f of x equals b to the x. That is a one-to-one function. So we talked about that yesterday. So since it's a one-to-one function, it has an inverse. Okay, so let's find it. So let's go over here. So we have f of x equals b to the x, right? So how do we find an inverse function? We make the following steps. So f of x, we're going to change that into y equals b to the x. We're going to interchange x and y, okay? But right here, we get, normally we would get stuck, okay? So how would I get y out of this exponent? So what are we going to do? We're going to use the definition of a logarithm. So we know that if something looks like b to the y equals x, that is equivalent to y equals log base b of x. So we have this. So this is equal to y equals log base b of x by definition of log function. Right. So now that we got y, now that we solved for y, what is the very last thing? What are we looking for? We're looking for the inverse. So this becomes f inverse of x equals log base b of x. Right. So your homework assignment is to replicate this, and this is due on Friday at 11:59, and this is worth 10 points. Right. So now that we found the inverse function, what does that mean? This means that b to the x and log base b of x, they are inverses of each other. Since they're inverses of each other, what do we know about them? We know that if we took the composition of both functions, either f of f inverse or f inverse of f, we know that they both equal x. Right? So, and then, yeah, like if you see the step right before we say equals x, those are these are properties of logarithms that we'll talk about more tomorrow. Right? But just take my word for it right now is that because of inverses, we know from the topic yesterday that they equal x. Right? That the composition equals x. A couple of more things I want to talk about before we get into examples. So we have an equivalence of logarithmic expressions. So let x, y, and b represent real numbers such that x is greater than 0, y is greater than 0, and b is greater than 0, but b cannot equal 1. Then log base b of x equals log base b of y. If we get those situations, that means we know this implies that x is equal to y. Okay? Keep in mind they both have to be the logarithm, and they both have to have the same base in order for x and y to equal. Lastly, the equivalence of exponential expressions. So again, let x, y, and b be real numbers such that b is positive and it's not equal to 0. Then if we have b to the x equal b to the y, then x is equal to y. So they have to have the same base as well, right? If they don't have the same base, we can't make the exponents equal to each other. And then one more thing, so I'm not really going to talk about this, but yesterday we saw the exponential function in the graph, okay, and all these notes. Over here, this is what a logarithm function looks like. All right, so we're not going to be graphing these, but I think it's good to just see it and just know what it looks like, especially when you guys go on to college algebra. Right? So these are the notes for section 8.4. 8.6 we'll talk about when we get there. So yeah, so after this we'll do examples. So see you in a little bit.